constitutionality of the ordinance that prohibits anybody from remaining on public square after 10 p.m. and right through 5 a.m. We argued that it was clearly unconstitutional under the First Amendment right to freedom of speech and the right to petition and assemble and associate. We asked for a temporary restraining order. The judge had us all in this morning, Judge Dan Polster, an excellent judge who did great work in bringing about a resolution of this lawsuit today. We went into his chambers with the lawyers from the city of Cleveland who were there to represent the city in defense of the lawsuit, and with the great help of the judge, we were able to accomplish an agreement with the city that will make it unnecessary to further litigate this lawsuit. The city has agreed to give us the permits that are necessary for the citizens who represent Occupy Cleveland to protest here at the Tom Johnson quadrant of Public Square, which you'll notice from the inscription behind his statue is the very place that is dedicated to freedom of speech. The agreement is the city will give our clients, these citizens, permits to demonstrate and to remain here and to leaflet and to speak and assemble 24/7, including the hours between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. Yes. And the Occupy Cleveland movement intends to fully exercise its constitutional rights under the First Amendment. They intend to continue to do it in a peaceable manner. They intend to educate people. They intend to communicate the important message that has brought them here today and that will continue to exert influence on the community, the nation, and the world. So that's what happened, and we're grateful to Federal Judge Dan Polster. We're grateful even to the city who was willing to accommodate this and agreed to this result, and will be issuing the permits that will permit the Occupy Cleveland citizens to exercise their rights around the clock.
All the dinner after this is over.
What? We're invited to... And, you know, it isn't... You know, it's important to think that you can change the world. That's really, really important. And, in fact, you can, but you have to keep changing it. We changed the world on and off a bunch of times. The anti-war movement, the civil rights movement, the women's movement, there were big changes made in the past. And we didn't, the backlash was just incredible. So just like in the first few months of Obama's presidency, I think we all wish he had gone for more when there was that honeymoon period. So when the opportunity is there, you have to strike and you have to seize it. And there's a window of opportunity now. I guess 60% of the population supports.
70%.
70%. That's bravo. Terrific. Let's give a kiss. So we're hoping today to kind of exchange stories, and I think maybe in the spirit of really honoring your work, we could start off with the occupiers. You could maybe help us understand your structure a little bit more, the idea of being leaderless, the idea of consensus, the idea of, you know, even the cool, you know, people's mic stuff. Maybe one or another of you could describe that to some of the veterans here, and then some of the veterans here, some of whom go back to the organizing days of the early organizing days of the labor movement in the 30s, actually. And they have a whole world of experience under their belts, and maybe we could have just a little bit of exchange on people's experiences. So can somebody from the occupiers?
Can we just take a minute, Harriet, and let's have people just say their first name around the table.
International thing that's going on, right? The Arab Spring and all of that, and so I'm just, don't let anybody tell you that you have to rush and come up with specific legislation and all. It's going to evolve organically out of this whole new conversation we're having in this country as to who government works for, what this country is all about, and what our moral philosophy is as to how we're going to run our society. And you guys have already made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think any of you in this room well, had to go through that.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Don't
you
tell me
did.
that.
So the American dream did not apply back then to people like me. So watching TV one day, and I saw where they were putting the dogs on the people in Alabama. That's what changed me and made me want to get involved. I searched out different organizations to see what I could do, and I got involved and started the picketing and the demonstrating, calling the police pigs, going to jail, and the whole 9 yards. But I tell you, it was so good to be a part of all of that, because I'm a part of the change that happened. I helped make that change happen, and I feel so good, and I hope all of you young people stay involved and continue to make change and make things happen.
Well, I'm a veteran of World War II. I enlisted when I was 18 years old. I served 3 years in the Pacific as a radio operator. And but when I came back and I started, working, I was part of a lot of strikes. I remember working in a steel mill, and we struck for 116 days when Eisenhower was president. And we had another strike after that for about 57 days. So I learned how it was, we had to separate the fat from the lean. And my wife was an integral part of protecting our family, and we try to work on it together. And another thing is, we organized a hospital in Cleveland, Mount Sinai Medical Center, which was led by a man who was claimed he was an authority in how to keep unions out of hospitals. We tried twice to get it in, and we lost by very close margins. The third time, we won by 43 votes. And so you have to keep trying, and you have to keep pushing. After we won that election, he was no longer an authority on how to keep. So I just want to say, that for those of us in the older generation, you really are an inspiration to us. And as Harriet said, anything we can possibly do to assist you, please let us know.
Yes. Yeah, let's hear about that.
Yeah.
Community outreach, tech, lots of other things that I'm forgetting right now because I'm really emotional, but we would love to see you come down on Sunday and help us with our working groups and give us your ideas, give us your wisdom. I mean, yeah, y'all did a lot of stuff in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s that people have kind of forgotten about, so we can reuse that stuff and redo it.
They don't teach that in school either, do they?
No, they don't teach that in school either. I think that we had a paragraph on unions in my history book in high school. So we would really like to see you come down with that, and then we can articulate more of our needs, and you can see more of our needs and where we're going with this movement. We have some pretty exciting work on direct actions on banks. We're having a mock share sale where we sell Chase Bank back to the community for the cost of the community. I'm working on other really fancy ideas that I can't articulate right now because they're not fully thought out yet and might be a little bit more civil disobedience oriented. So if you could help us with that, that would be great.
All right. Movement through the Congress of Racial Equality. And honestly, I was a little bit afraid of direct action. But I got a phone call one day, you gotta come, you gotta come. They've got tractors and they're trying to get to our picket line. So I said, well, I get an hour and a half for lunch, I can get an hour and a half, I'll be there. As I approached the picket line, and they train you at Corps, they gave you training with the dogs and the guns and the... Everybody got up off that picket line and left one man there, Reverend Bruce Plunder. This happened right here on the east side of Cleveland. I was screaming at the top of my lungs, and I'm not a screamer much. And I ran over to him, And you know, with CPR, you say, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And his shoulder felt like a beanbag in my hand. And that was really my introduction. And watching that night, it's at the Corps headquarters, it's a nonviolent movement, right? Our people were bringing guns with them. So I knew right then we were in trouble. And that's the long run, when the pressures begin to mount. And, you know, we've seen it. You know, King got killed, and people, we know. But we have to be ready, and the discipline has to be as shared among you as your peace is. And your way of communicating is beautiful. I've been there a couple of times at night. I've been there. And I like it when 6 young men come out and say, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you." But there's a spirit there that is very beautiful, and I hope that we can do everything possible to help and support you, because there will be forces, there will be other forces that will gather. And I still believe in prayer too, and I will be praying for you and doing whatever else I can. You're doing a great thing.
Down the street, watching you all once you got in our group, watching you all so far as the organization that you all had. I'd be proud to go to combat with any of you. You get what you take. You keep what you hold. If you can't get anything, and if you can't take anything, you get nothing without organization. That man was a man called A. Philip Randolph, who was one of the leaders, so far as black leaders in the labor movement. So keep on doing what you're doing. I will be down on Public Square with you. And